Hi and welcome to another edition of Face to Face. I'm Vic Perri and our guest tonight is Glyn, President of Midsumma. Welcome to the program, Glyn.
Thanks, Vic.
Now, you're sort of relatively new. You took over the reins from Christine Darmody, who's, how long has she been president for?
2 years. We had Chris, and I took over just about 4 months ago.
About 4 months ago.
Yeah.
You've settled in?
I have, yeah. I'd been on the board for a couple of years before that, so I had a bit of a head start.
What did you do on the board?
Marketing and sponsorship mainly, and I also worked on the website and the guide. So I had a bit of a lead up to it.
Challenging position to be in, particularly even though it's such a big festival and quite well known, but as everybody knows, it's bloody tough to get bucks from people.
Look, even an easy sell's a hard sell actually, sponsorship, especially in the arts and with community festivals, is always a tough gig. But we've done pretty well over the years because Midsumma's got a really supportive community, and there's a lot of goodwill about Midsumma, so it could be harder. Yeah.
Well, what about outside the community? We often think about something like Midsumma within the context of the queer community. What sort of support do you get outside the queer community?
Well, lots. I mean, obviously there are the corporate sponsors who are interested in reaching the gay and lesbian markets, and so it's very important to them to be able to be seen as supportive of the gay community. But also, really, it's about government partners who are very serious supporters of Midsumma, and that's coming to the fore, especially in the last year.
You're talking about the state government as well as the local bodies like the Melbourne City Council?
We get great support from local councils, from Arts Victoria, and most recently we've just secured a new 3-year funding deal with the City of Melbourne, who have been really terrific supporters of Midsumma for several years, and we're part of their new triennial program that's going into effect this year.
So that's pretty good, isn't it? So they recognise Midsumma as quite a major Melbourne event.
Yeah, we were delighted, and I guess when you put 20,000 people in Fed Square, it's fairly obvious that we're here, and how important Midsumma is to Melbourne, and how many people love to be a part of it. And we were delighted that in a fairly competitive funding environment we were able to secure City of Melbourne support.
So how did Midsumma start? I mean, it obviously didn't start off
probably in a couple of armchairs like this, actually.
So let's start a festival. So
we could start another one.
We're a new era. Where was the first, or what year did it start? And where was the actual carnival? Because it wasn't in the Alexandra Gardens.
We're heading into the 18th year now.
18?
That's right. We're trying not to be too adult about it, but it's once you're 18, it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that you're around and you're solid. And obviously there's been a number of changes over the years in terms of where major street party and carnival type events are held, and we're looking at a number of changes. It's not like Midsumma's going to go to sleep now because the formula's worked for 18 years. We're actually looking at a whole lot of changes in the future in terms of how we reach the community better, where we program events, how we involve people who perhaps traditionally wouldn't come to Midsumma.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the future and particularly your vision for the festival. But something like Mardi Gras, particularly in the last couple of years, have sort of gone through a few troubles, and everybody can speculate what the problems were. Obviously, they're different festivals, so we can't compare. But what's your perception of what went wrong? And I'll say what went wrong because it had gone wrong in some way for Mardi Gras. What do you think that actually happened with Mardi Gras? And why has Midsumma been different and been so successful?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the gap between Midsumma and Mardi Gras is that great. So, I mean, the first thing is I don't really know. I mean, my involvement with Mardi Gras is as a sort of friend and supporter, and I've had a couple of friends who are on the Mardi Gras board, but really as a punter. So my experience of Mardi Gras is probably not that different from most other people's. It seems to me that they've not really... that they've actually come through the problems that they had in terms of how they organise themselves and I guess the way they relate to corporate sponsors and how they treat the money. And my impression of Mardi Gras is that they're doing a superb job. It's actually really kind of come through those times and that they're off and away again. I think the main difference between Mardi Gras and Midsumma is it's just a lot bigger in its colour and how pervasive it is in Sydney at that time. It's huge, but we're working on that.
Does that mean it becomes unsustainable when it's that big?
Doesn't look unsustainable. I mean, it's some of the individual efforts are unsustainable, but as a festival it seems to work really well. I mean, I think that Midsumma is quite conscious of making sure that we, as we grow, we take our community with us, and that's really important to us. We've got a really supportive base of people in Melbourne, and I think, you know, fundamentally Melbourne's a very tight-knit gay and lesbian community, and we certainly get all the benefits from that support, and we're pretty keen as we grow to make sure that we take that with us.
So it's about inclusiveness and making sure, by taking people with you, that actually helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you're servicing a really diverse community, it's always a battle to make sure that everyone's on board and to make sure that that there's something for everyone. And you know, we really put our guts into that, and it doesn't always work, but it's something that's really important to us.
And how varied are the events, Midsumma? I mean, we often talk about the festival in January, February, culminating in the carnival. What actually happens in between? I mean, there's a lot of other things that happen, don't they?
Things like this.
Like this,
are one of them, yeah. I mean, Midsumma now, as I'm sure you know, has staff of 4, with 2 full-time and 2 part-time staff. So we've got a fairly solid base of organisation that's happening throughout the year.
So the admin part just keeps going?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, really to put on a 3-week festival is really a sort of 49-week effort, and so there's obviously a lot of work that goes into programming and scheduling, to securing venues, to securing artists. Launching and putting together the registered events program is enormous, and obviously there's a lot of people in the community who are thinking about the Midsumma events that they're going to put on through the year. It's about liaising with them and making sure that we've got a really solid registered events program together. And then there's the marketing and the audience development for the festival. We have to make sure that there's a high quality guide on the streets, that the website looks good, that we get the kind of promotion and publicity help that we need during the festival. So yeah, there's a lot of groundwork that goes into on the night of 3 weeks that happens in January.
All right, we'll continue very shortly. We're just going to go to a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be back very shortly. Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm Vic Perri, and tonight our guest is Glyn, President of Midsumma. We've been having a decent chat so far. Now let's talk about Midsumma's new home. Midsumma had been sort of crammed into a little office at Fitzroy, old Fitzroy Town Hall for a while. Yeah. What happened there? I mean, there seemed to have been some sort of controversy about getting kicked out, or what was the story?
No, we weren't kicked out at all.
No one seems to know exactly
on the contrary, we'd actually been the grateful guests of the City of Yarra for 7 or 8 years, and they'd been terrific. Yep. But with the redevelopment of the Town Hall, the council put out an expression of interest for the spaces that were available for arts organisations and community organisations in there, and so we submitted an expression, and we didn't make the cut. It was, I think perhaps people think there was some controversy, but there really wasn't. We just put in an application and...
Well, some people cried discrimination, that sort of thing, but it wasn't really that at all.
There were a lot of...
decision.
No, the City of Yarra is very supportive of Midsumma. I just think it's that there weren't enough spaces for everyone, and we didn't make it. But we did make it elsewhere, and we're actually we've just moved to the Abbotsford Convent, which is going to be a terrific new space for independent artists, art organisations, and community groups. And so we've just moved.
And it sounds like it's a more suitable or appropriate environment.
It's really stunning. I don't know if you know the convent, but it's down by the river. It's a beautiful sandstone building, and it's pretty clear it's going to become a real hub for for community organisations is it's a good place to have a glass of champagne on a Friday night when the work week's done.
The dice falls, so yeah, you could be sitting there.
We might end up diving in, I don't know. But
so there could be maybe there's prospect there of collaborating with other groups, or that might happen.
Yeah, I mean, Midsumma's obviously always interested in people we can partner with to either produce certain events or venues that we can work with. And we don't know fully who will be in the convent yet, but it's pretty clear that there'll be like-minded organisations and that that we'll make friends down there.
Yeah, and now, before you were sort of talking about the admin side of things, or people already involved, so there's a administrative person or executive officer?
Yeah, we've got a general manager, and she leads all the functions of the festival during the year and reports to the board on that.
Yep.
Then we have a festival producer and an events manager and a bookkeeper.
Right.
Who all do their various things under Shay's direction through the year.
Yep. And the board, how does the board happen? Is there standard sort of elections and...
Yeah, is there ever such a thing as a standard election?
Yeah, actually, that was a bit
it's as standard as they come. The board's elected by the membership, and so some positions on the board are for 2 years and some are for 1 year. My role as chair is just for 1 year, so I have to ask again this time in March next year. So the board tends to turn over, every 4 or 5 years. It's been a really quite a stable board where there's a good balance between new people coming on, fresh ideas, new ways of doing things, and also some people who have stayed around a while longer so that we get the benefit of their experience too.
Well, it reminds me of someone like Geraldine Kirby. She's sort of someone who's synonymous with Midsumma and worked pretty hard for over the years. She retired
so
recently?
Hard. She hasn't retired.
She's still going?
Yeah, we conned her into not retiring. And Geraldine's actually the events manager that I was talking about now. So it's her role to firstly produce Carnival and secondly to work with Fed Square to produce opening night. Yep.
Fed Square. Now, was that a good decision to go to Fed Square? And actually, how did that happen? Anyway?
It was a terrific decision. Anyone who's been to one of the last 2 opening nights of Midsumma at Fed Square would agree it was a really incredible move forward for the festival. And it came, like all good ideas, it just came from a couple of people sitting around saying, let's do this. And it was a new initiative that was led by a friend of ours, Ray Arthur, who was on the board for a couple of years and is still involved in major events. And Ray really put his soul into it. Like, he really gave it the kind of energy and polish that it needed to make a big queer event happen right in the centre of Melbourne. And I think I was a real sceptic about Fed Square when it was being built. I found it hard to think that space would work well, and it's so clear that I was wrong. It's so clear that it's a really terrific hub space, and you've made it in Melbourne when you can put on a really big event in Fed Square.
For sure. That's the major square, or it's the square of Melbourne. So is that something that in terms of the working relationship then with the City of Melbourne, was that pretty easy? Were they quite happy for you to be there?
Yeah, the City of Melbourne love it. I mean, their mission is to make events in the city exciting and to make sure that celebrations are happening within the confines of the city, and I don't think we could have done any better in helping them meet that objective than the Midsumma opening night.
So it'll be happening again next year?
Sure will.
Yeah. And what we sort of remember last year or last couple of years there were certain activities during the night, like the speed dating and that sort of thing. Is there anything special coming up for next year?
Yeah, it's all being worked out now, but I can tell you the main stage is being programmed now, and so there'll be a range of live acts and some DJs that'll be filling the main square from the stage. We're also going to be using the atrium space, which you might remember was used for Summer Diva and also last year for the dance party after opening night. And we're looking at putting some more visual arts exhibitions actually around the various events in Fed Square. I mean, one of the things is it's a big space to fill, and there's a lot of different spaces to fill. So we want to make sure there's a good mix of sort of big ticket huge crowd events, and also small, more accessible events that smaller groups of people can get into.
And the cabaret, that was a hit last year.
Yeah, cabaret's coming back. We're just working out where to put it now. But yeah, the people who are putting that together are pretty excited about getting the lineup going.
I remember visiting the space, and you couldn't move. It was just so busy.
Yeah.
And the lineup of acts were just fantastic.
Yeah, I think if you spend a few hours at Fed Square on Midsumma opening night, you want to have a mix of things. Like, you want to have a break from the big main stage stuff, and going into a kind of glamorous, suave cabaret environment and just kind of chilling out for a while actually worked really well for a lot of people.
And it was a good idea last year too, and I'm not sure if you're going to do it again, where you actually invited various people to stage something or to do a couple of numbers on stage, and these were people from various venues, so there were people from the Exchange, Market, so it was that sort of collaborative inclusiveness of the community. Is that happening again?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to see just the organisers of Midsumma performing on stage, we're going to need some help, and that's...
I've seen you in a frock.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but, come January 20, who knows?
Who knows?
It's really important for us to have the support of the community in programming those events. I mean, we are good at organising a festival, but you can't have a festival that works without the support of a really wide range of people and a lot of artists and performers coming forward wanting to be part of it. So, Midsumma, we see our role as really, we'll give you the stage, and you guys put something on it.
And so, are you working out? I mean, you said at the moment you're working out the opening night.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the festival? What are the any sort of highlights that have been worked out, or at least ideas on the table for next year?
Yeah. Without going into the specifics until we launch in a couple of months, in particular the visual arts program this year is just going to rock. It's a really greatly expanded visual arts program in a lot more venues and galleries, and it's really exciting, the stuff that's coming forward. There's a working group that's putting together that program now, and they've just recently sifted through a lot of proposals, and it's so exciting to see how much really strong queer art there is coming forward. So I think that's going to be a highlight. But the whole programming committee looking at performing arts, at spoken word, and at cabaret, and a couple of other surprise sort of additions will actually make it a really strong program.
So, is that a Melbourne thing? It seems to be, I'm not sure how successful Mardi Gras has been with their sort of arts components, but Melbourne seem to love art.
I think it is. I mean, Melbourne's a really deeply cultural city. It's you've got a real head start running a cultural festival in Melbourne because you've got such an interested audience and people who are into everything. And so it does make it a lot easier to run a strong festival when you've got a really supportive kind of audience base. Yeah, it's been good for Midsumma.
In terms of the people that exhibit their artwork, whether it be painting or photos, that sort of stuff. You don't just get the professionals in, do you? I mean, anybody in the community can submit something.
We're totally open access as a festival, and I think that's one of the great things about it, is that there's something for everyone, and there's an opportunity for independent artists to come forward, as long as you've got somewhere to show your work, whatever it might be, and something to show. We're happy to be the platform to do that. And in fact, we're more and more working with independent artists who want to be involved in the festival to help them into that process as well, and help them with the kind of related stuff like marketing and publicity that goes along with putting on a show.
Now, there's been a lot of news lately about the state government sort of taking over every square inch of Melbourne space, and particularly the parks and gardens. Now, with the carnival next year, then being had normally been in the Alexandra Gardens, is it still going to happen in the gardens? What's happening there?
We're confident that it'll happen there. It hasn't been finally worked out. Now, the background is that the Commonwealth Games organising committee is actually, needing to keep a lot of flexibility in terms of City of Melbourne-based venues over that time, and so, we're sympathetic to that. They've got an even bigger show than ours to put on a couple of months later, but we're working with City of Melbourne and with Commonwealth Games now to work out a solution, and we're confident Carnival go ahead as planned.
All right, well, it sounds like it's going to be fantastic, and of course, Ben TV as a
You'll be there on the
media
night.
partner will be there on the night, and we'll be sort of doing a lot of segments on our programs to make sure that people who can't make it to Midsumma will actually see it on Ben TV. If people want more information, they can contact Midsumma. There is a website.
Yeah, people should go to the Midsumma website, www.midsumma.org.au.
It's coming up on your screen, and I'm sure there's an email address on the site as well. So thanks again, Glyn.
Thanks, Vic.
It was fantastic having you, and we'll keep people up to date in the coming months. So that's it, Face to Face, and I'm Vic Perri, and we'll catch you next time.